Welcome to the ArcherShaw Temple Podcast, teachings for sovereign awakening, sacred union, and embodied devotion. I'm Christopher Shaw, here with Aeon Archer. May this transmission meet you exactly where you are and open the next doorway on your path. Let us begin.
Good morning. And, as we like to do here in Merkaba Temple, let us all just take one more deep breath together. Deep inhale through the nose. And an even longer exhale, arriving fully here and now in this reality that we are currently sharing together in this space. And whether you're here every week, once again, or it's your first time, or you're watching on YouTube and you're not sure what you believe anymore, welcome. You certainly belong here. I want to name something that I think many of us are feeling right now, and that is exhaustion. Not just tired, exhausted. Exhausted from holding fear for the state of the world. Exhausted from wondering if we're going to be okay. Exhausted from financial insecurity or uncertainty. Exhausted from the constant input from every single direction. And for some of us, that exhaustion turns into numbness. Like we can't feel the full weight of everything, so our system tries to protect us by going quiet. And when people are exhausted and afraid, what do you think happens? It gets harder to trust. It gets harder to connect with each other. It gets harder to listen. Because when our nervous system is overwhelmed, everything starts to feel like a threat. So this morning, I want to offer you a path back. Not a debate, not a reaction, but a path back to a shared reality through coherence, trust, and the courage to listen. And now I would like to start here. And many of us, it's undeniable that we've noticed how divided people are becoming, not just in the public, but in families, in friendships, in group chat threads, in comment sections. It's like the whole relationship, all the relationships are being swallowed by this camp mentality. One camp over here and another camp over there. And when that happens, the story becomes, if you're not with me, you are against me. If you disagree, you are dangerous. If you don't see it my way, you must be asleep. You don't have to look far to see that energy is everywhere. And what really breaks my heart is that so many people don't even know how to have healthy dialogue anymore. They don't know how to stay human with each other. They don't know how to disagree without cutting each other off emotionally. So I want to bring us back to something very simple. The values we are building here today: truth, integrity, connection. And those aren't just slogans, those are disciplines. And they matter most when the world gets loud. So let's begin with coherence. And that's a word that we use a lot around here, because coherence is where shared reality really starts. Not out there in this world, but in here, inside ourselves. And coherence is really a simple word. Coherence is when your body, your heart, your mind, and your actions are all moving in the same direction. So I want to say that again. It's when your body, your heart, your mind, and your actions are all moving in the same direction. And coherence is inner alignment. It's when you're not being pulled apart inside yourself anymore. And incoherence is when you're divided. Your body is anxious, but your mouth says, I'm fine. Or your heart is overwhelmed, but your mind keeps scrolling. Or your value is peace, but your habits feed chaos. And I have to make this personal because I know this from the inside. There are times I catch myself doom scrolling. I catch myself letting the constant headlines of doom and collapse shape my nervous system, and letting the headlines determine my own inner coherence. And if I'm really honest about it, I kind of can feel it happening when it's happening, because my breath gets shallow, my chest and my body tightens, and my mind starts racing to all of these future possibilities of how things can collapse around me and what's going to happen next. What's going to happen to my financial security? What's going to happen to everything that we're building? And I start feeling this subtle panic that says something is wrong and it's getting worse. And then I had this moment where I realized I'm letting my phone decide who I am. I'm letting the feed set my inner weather. I'm letting the noise take me out of my actual life. And in that moment, I have to do something very sacred to me. I have to put the phone down. And it's not always easy, to be honest with you. I have to come back to my reality, back into my present moment, back into what's true right here and right now. Because this is how I best support the world right now, not by living in the constant drama or the constant alarm, but returning to my coherence, holding that field, holding that frequency. Because returning to balance, returning to awareness, because coherent people become stabilizers and incoherent people become amplifiers of the fear we see in the world. And so here's a question I have for you, and I want you to see where it lands this morning. Where have you been letting the world's noise determine your inner state? Where have you been letting your feed decide what kind of day you're allowed to have? And where have you been outsourcing your peace? Now, I want to offer a practice so it's not just the theory, because coherence is not just something you can understand, it's something you have to practice. So wherever you are, I invite you to just soften your shoulders, allow your jaw to relax, wiggle your toes, feel your feet on the ground beneath you. And as we often do, take one slow inhale and an even longer exhale. One more slow inhale and an even longer exhale. And then ask yourself, what is true for me right now? Not the whole story, just right now. And then what is one coherent next step? One simple step. Now, the reason this works is because you're using your mind to engage your body in this present moment and to make a decision. And then you're allowing yourself to land in this, the only way time and the only way we engage with our heart frequency, with our heart field, is in the here and the now. When we experience love, it's in the here and the now. And so when we are doing that breath in that moment, we're engaging all of the aspects of our humanity. And it brings us into coherence and then into right action. Now, I'm going to also share with you something practical that works for me when I'm scattered or when I feel pulled into fear, when I feel numb. I do what I call is a 15-minute silence reset. I put on some gentle meditation music or some binaural beats, put on my headphones because it can be really loud here in Mexico. I lie down. So there are no distractions, no scrolling, no input of any kind other than the meditation music. And I just reset. But before I do that, I decide one thing that I'm going to do that I will accomplish immediately after the reset. And then when I get up, I do that one thing. So it's simple, it's grounded, it returns me to agency in my life, and it returns me to my life. Because coherence isn't just calm, coherence is clarity plus movement. Coherence is I return and I take the next step. And when we return to coherence, something magical begins to grow. Trust. Trust in ourselves, trust in our relationships, trust in our engagement with our life. And so that brings me to wanting to talk about trust, because a lot of people struggle with trust right now, and rightfully so. And that makes a lot of sense, because fear makes people suspicious. Everyone's out to get me. Exhaustion makes people very cynical. And uncertainty makes people protective. So when you feel financially insecure, you may find yourself bracing. If you feel uncertain about the world, you may start assuming the worst about everything. And when you stop cultivating a relationship, I mean cultivating, because trust is a relationship you can cultivate. When you stop cultivating a relationship with trust, we begin to see other human beings through a lens of threat. And it's not always conscious, but you can notice it in your body. But here's the cost. When trust collapses, connection collapses. When trust collapses, people stop being curious and they start being certain. They start treating disagreements like danger. And the loudest form of this right now is this idea that only my side is awake. Only my side sees reality. Only my side is good. And I'll tell you, that mindset is a spiritual trap because it feels like strength, but it's actually fear disguised as superiority. And if you listen quietly, you can hear the judgment that happens underneath those statements. And I want to say something gently but clearly. Any worldview that requires you to dehumanize other people is not awakening. And any truth that makes you cruel is not truth. Any certainty that destroys connection is not wisdom. Truth, integrity, and connection belong together. If you have truth without connection, you become harsh. If you have connection without truth, you become avoidant. If you have integrity without humility, you become rigid. And so here's a confession I can make to you as your brother. I have been the person who has been absolutely certain when I was scared, certain I was right, certain someone else was wrong, only to learn later that the truth, more times than not, is somewhere in between. And that humility didn't weaken me, it matured me, it softened me. It made me more trustworthy because trust grows where humility lives. Trust grows where people can say, I'm listening. I might not have the full picture. I want truth without losing love. And the fastest way to rebuild trust is the skill we almost never practice in public anymore. Listening. Genuinely, authentically listening. And listening is not a passive exercise. Listening is courageous because listening requires you to stay open, even when your nervous system wants to close. Listening requires you to stay present when your ego wants to win. Listening requires you to stay human when the culture is trying to make you tribal. So here's a question that might sting a little, but in a holy way. When you feel challenged, do you listen to understand? Or do you listen to defend? And here's another. What might change in your life if you stayed curious 5 seconds longer than your certainty? And scripture even gives a very simple instruction that can feel like medicine right now. Be quick to listen, slow to speak, and even slower to anger. Quick to listen, slow to speak, slow to anger. That is coherence. That is trust. That is how we return to a shared reality. Because anger moves quickly, fear moves even faster, and outrage moves like wildfire. Trust moves at the speed of presence, one moment at a time, with clarity. So I want to give you a simple listening vow that you can carry with you into this week. Not as performance, but as discipline, as a way to return. And let these words land. I can pause. I can breathe. I can remain curious. And I can choose what builds life. And this is how shared reality returns. One conversation at a time, one pause at a time, one breath at a time, and one moment of courage at a time. So let me bring all this together. Coherence is how you return to yourself. Trust is how you rebuild the bridge. And listening is how you walk across it. And shared reality doesn't return because everyone agrees. Shared reality returns when people can disagree without becoming enemies. When people can feel fear without spreading fear. When people can be uncertain without becoming cruel. And this is what we're practicing here through trust, through truth, integrity, and connection. Not as an idea, because we can think about these things all day long, but as a way of being. So let me ask you something tender and real. Where have you been pulled into division? Where have you been tempted into only my side is awake energy? And where have you been choosing certainty over connection. No shame, just awareness. Because awareness is where freedom begins. And before we close, I want to send you into this week with a simple assignment, 2 practices. That's it, just 2. First, practice coherence once a day. Do a short reset, 3 slow breaths with longer exhales. And then ask yourself, what is true right now? What is one coherent next step? And then do it. And if you have time, if you can find a way to find 15 minutes in your day for a silent reset, at least once a week, it's a really powerful exercise. I don't think anything in my life would get done if I didn't use it. You lie down, no input, and decide one thing you'll do immediately afterwards, and then do it. And the second task I'd like you to practice this week is listen deeply. That means turning off the rampant thoughts, stop practicing what you're going to say next after the person is speaking, and genuinely listen. One conversation this week. Choose to listen first and not to fix, not to win, but to simply understand. And ask one real question before you offer your view, even if you disagree, especially if you disagree, because listening is how we counter the divisive rhetoric without becoming it. Listening is how we refuse the addiction to outrage. Listening is how we keep our humanity. And if you're watching online and you feel numb or afraid, or if you feel like you're carrying too much, this is your reminder. You don't have to carry the whole world today. You just have to return to what is real, to your breath, to your body, and to the next coherent step. So let us close today's teaching with blessing. Beloved Source, bless every exhausted heart. Bless every nervous system that has been living in overdrive. Bless every person holding fear about the future. Bless every home divided by rhetoric. And bless every family learning how to speak again. May we return to coherence. May we rebuild trust. May we practice the courage to listen. And may we become people of truth, integrity, and connection. And may shared reality return through us, one breath, one pause, one conversation at a time. Om Namah Shivaya, Amen, Aho, Ashe, and so it is. Thank you, family, and thank you for staying with this teaching. Before we move on, let's take a breath and just notice what's happening inside. Deep breath in. Sometimes a teaching doesn't land in the mind first. It lands in the body, in the chest, in the breath, in whatever space softened or opened while you were listening. And rather than push past that, we're going to make space for it. We're going to take a few minutes now to settle, to come back into our bodies and to practice coherence together. Not as an idea, but as an experience. Christopher is going to lead us through a simple meditation to help us bring us back into presence, back into truth, and back into ourselves. So wherever you are, get comfortable and let's move into practice together. Christopher.
Thank you. Thank you, my love. That was beautiful. All right, everyone. Wherever you are, either in this room or joining us from your home, go ahead and settle into a position that feels steady for you. You don't need to sit perfectly, and you don't need to hold any posture. Just get comfortable enough that your body can participate. Letting your eyes soften or close if that feels natural. And we're going to start very simply. Let's start today by just noticing your breath. Not correcting it, not judging it, just noticing. Now slowly, without forcing, let your next inhale come through the nose. And when you exhale, let it be just a little bit longer than the inhale. Inhale and exhale a little longer. Letting your shoulders soften a bit, letting the muscles in your face loosen, letting your belly have space to move with your breath. Now bring one hand, whichever feels natural, to your chest and the other to your belly. Feeling the warmth of your own body, feeling the rise and fall. And gently ask yourself, what is true right now? Not the whole story, not the future, not the fear, just right now. And whatever came up, just let it be true for this moment. You don't have to fix it. You don't have to make it pretty. And you don't have to make sense of it. Now ask yourself a second question. What is one coherent next step? Just one, not 10, not all the solutions. Just the next coherent step your body can actually take. Very good. Now feel your feet on the ground, the support underneath you, and feel how life is holding you in this moment. Take a slow inhale, and again a larger, longer exhale. And now we're going to do something very simple, just 3 breaths together. Slow, coherent, grounding breaths. Inhale slowly through the nose. Exhale. Again, inhale. And exhale. Last one. Inhale. And a long, slow release. And just for a moment, notice if anything shifted. Even 2%, even 0.5%. Maybe your jaw softened, your mind quieted. Maybe there's just a little more space inside your chest. Whatever shifted, honor it. This is coherence, not perfection, not forever peace, just a return. And from this steadier place, we move into the rest of our service. Take one more breath, and when you're ready, slowly open your eyes and come back to this place.
Beautiful. All right, beloved family. Feels nice.
Coherent, yes.
Coherent,
Coherent.
absolutely. I would like to speak honestly for a moment about how this temple is held. Merkaba Temple isn't powered by an organization or a staff or outside funding. It's held the same way everything meaningful in a spiritual community is held, by the people who receive from it and who choose to help sustain it. If this space supports you, if these teachings give you clarity, if this community gives you a place to breathe and return to yourself, then participation is part of how we keep this field coherent. Not out of pressure, not out of obligation, but out of shared care. Participation here doesn't mean equal giving. It means everyone contributing in a way that feels aligned and honest. So if you're able, I invite you to participate now. If your phone is nearby, you're welcome to take it out. You can open Venmo and find us at Merkaba Temple, or you can participate through the temple website at merkabatemple.com/donate. There, you can give once or set up weekly, monthly, or yearly support, whatever matches how this community lives in your life. What sustains this temple is not a few people giving a lot, but many people contributing with intention and coherence. Thank you truly for supporting the space that supports you, and for helping give this temple steady, trustworthy, and alive.
Thank you for being here with us at ArcherShaw Temple. If something in this teaching helped your body soften or brought you back into yourself, let it keep moving. Share it with someone who's ready. This temple is sustained through conscious participation, through those who feel the resonance and choose to support the work from clarity, not pressure. If you feel called into right exchange, you're welcome to support the mission on Venmo at Merkaba Temple, all one word. And if you'd like to go deeper, you can schedule a complimentary soul alignment session at archershaw.guru. Until next time, take care of your nervous system, walk gently, and stay close to what's true.